In Silicon Valley, there's a famous saying, fake it till you make it. But what happens when someone fakes it and never actually makes it? This is the story of Elizabeth Holmes, the woman who promised to revolutionize medicine, raised $700 million from investors, became the youngest self-made female billionaire in America, and then lost everything when the truth came out. Chapter 1. The Birth of a Genius. Elizabeth Holmes was born in Washington, D.C. in 1984. From a young age, she was obsessed with becoming a billionaire entrepreneur. Legend has it that when her father asked what she wanted to be when she grew up, she didn't say doctor, lawyer, or astronaut. She said, "I want to be a billionaire." That's the kind of ambition that makes motivational speakers smile. And accountants nervous. She later enrolled at Stanford University, studying chemical engineering. But Holmes didn't plan on graduating, because in Silicon Valley, dropping out of college is practically a business strategy. After all, it worked for Steve Jobs. It worked for Bill Gates. So Holmes thought, why not me? Chapter 2. The Billion-Dollar Idea. At just 19 years old, Holmes dropped out of Stanford and started a company. Its name? Theranos. Her idea sounded like science fiction. Instead of drawing vials of blood with large needles, doctors could run hundreds of medical tests with just one tiny drop of blood from your finger. Faster tests, cheaper tests, no confidentides. It sounded like the future of medicine, and investors loved it. Money poured in. Soon, Theranos was valued at $9 billion. Holmes herself was worth $4.5 billion. Not bad for someone who was still younger than most people's student loans. Chapter 3. The Steve Jobs Effect. Holmes carefully crafted her image. Black turtleneck, minimalist style, visionary speeches about changing the world. Sound familiar? She was basically doing a Silicon Valley tribute act to Steve Jobs. Even her voice became part of the brand. Holmes spoke in an unusually deep, dramatic tone, which many people later claimed was, let's say, strategically enhanced. Imagine someone whispering a TED Talk in the voice of Darth Vader. That was the vibe. But the strategy worked. Powerful people joined the board of Theranos, including former U.S. Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, former Secretary of Defense James Mattis. These were big names. Unfortunately, none of them were medical technology experts, which is a bit like hiring famous chefs to run a spaceship. Chapter 4. The Technology Problem. Behind the scenes, there was one small issue. The revolutionary machine didn't work. The device, called the Edison machine, was supposed to run hundreds of blood tests. But according to employees, it frequently produced inaccurate results, sometimes dangerously inaccurate. Instead of fixing the technology, Theranos reportedly began secretly using regular commercial blood testing machines, while claiming their own device was doing the work. It was basically the medical equivalent of turning in a school project that your older sibling actually did. Except this time, the project was worth billions of dollars. Chapter 5. The Journalist Who Pulled the Thread. In 2015, one journalist started asking uncomfortable questions. His name was John Carreyrou from The Wall Street Journal. At first, Theranos dismissed the claims. Holmes and her lawyers pushed back aggressively. But Carreyrou kept digging. Former employees started speaking out. Documents leaked, and the story slowly unraveled, like a very expensive sweater. Chapter 6. The Collapse. Once the truth started coming out, everything happened quickly. Regulators stepped in. Investigations began. Partnerships collapsed. Investors panicked. And the once celebrated startup Theranos fell apart. Holmes' net worth dropped from $4.50 billion to zero, which is the financial equivalent of going from private jet to bus pass. Chapter 7. The Trial. In 2018, Holmes was charged with fraud. After a long legal battle, she was convicted in 2022. The former Silicon Valley superstar was sentenced to over 11 years in prison. Her story went from visionary entrepreneur to one of the biggest startup scandals in history. And Hollywood quickly turned the saga into TV shows and documentaries. Because if there's one thing Hollywood loves, it's a billionaire scandal. The lesson: the story of Elizabeth Holmes is more than just a scandal. It's a warning about hype, In Silicon Valley, confidence is powerful. Vision can attract investors, and storytelling can build billion-dollar companies. But eventually, reality shows up, and reality doesn't care about pitch decks. Because in science, you can't fake results. If you have watched this video to this point, it means you have enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, so when I drop a new video, you will be the first to see it.